want to welcome everyone here to today's masterclass with Buzzy Rocket. We're super excited. Just a few notes. If you have any questions at all during the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat. There'll be a Q&A section afterwards where we can ask those questions. If you can either direct message them to me or put them in the chat, either way works really well. This masterclass will be recorded, so you will get the link to this recording after the masterclass if you'd like to watch it back, or if you'd like to share it with anyone, you will have the link to that. And the title of today's masterclass is How to Supercharge Your Startup with Personal Branding. Like I said, we have Buzzy Rocket here today. We're super excited that they're here. We have Debbie Klein, who is the founder and chief of customer success, and Meg Schaefer, who is an expert consultant. So without further ado, I would like to turn the time to them to give us this awesome masterclass.
Great. Thanks, Skylar. I know you might be a little bit thrown. There is a Victoria Collins is also on the sheet here. However, I will be playing the part of Victoria Collins today because she is stuck on an airplane. But, you know, that's part of being in a startup, right? You got to be agile and be able to move on your feet. So I'm sure Victoria will be missed. So thank you, everybody, for joining today. Again, we are 13 years old, our Buzzy Rocket, and we focus 99% on startups. We help people get in front of the right customers, messaging, everything, full agency, everything from like logo to website, but we mostly focus on getting in front of the right customers. So as we go through this today, it's going to be not about us. It's going to be really hardcore, just like make it, how to do it. But there is a little slant towards startups and how these things will help you acquire business, raise funds, all that good stuff. Okay, so talking about personal branding, most of us recognize this guy, right? He's extremely strong personal brand, known both in his personal brand and at Apple for simplicity, everything from product design to the way he works. You can see a little alignment there as you go through that. This guy, Bill Nye the Science Guy, like who doesn't love him, right? He's branded himself as like, I'm a nerd, I'm super dorky, I'm crazy smart. He appeals to a huge audience, everything from little kids to he speaks about climate change. He has a great personal brand. One that's kind of interesting and can be a tiny bit divisive, but Martha Stewart has a very interesting personal brand that has taken quite a few hits legally. She started out, you know, with very domestic and cooking and this and that and the other thing. And they, you know, she's branded all the way through. Now she's partnering with Snoop Dogg and doing all kinds of fun stuff. And it has an appeal to a huge audience. Okay, so we're going to start with a quick question. Do you think personal brand impacts your business? When I talk to people about that, lots of people are like, crap, do I have a personal brand? Like, who am I? Like, what is it? Am I like the person that's always late? Like, what is it? So it's okay if you're not even sure if you have one. We're going to give this a few moments. And just so you know, even though you're covering the adorable puppy with the pole right there, Skylar, one of the things we do at Buzzy Rocket is we support animal and animal rescues. So we have adopted, I believe we're up to 18 pets at this point, and we donate time, money, and services to local shelters as well as some international organizations. Oh, heck yeah. Oh, all right. Who's the 2%? Throw yourself like who? All right. It's very fair. Actually, I'm kind of shocked that it's not a smaller percent who weren't quite sure if they had a personal brand. And I'm glad to hear this will help me skew a little bit how we go through this today. So I'm glad to hear most people do understand, especially in today's day and age, how that does really have the potential to have significant impact on your business. Okay, so what is your personal brand? It's not, you know, none of the stuff we're talking about today is really rocket science, crazy difficult. It's logical, it's accessible. You guys can totally do this. All it really is what other people are saying about you when you're not in the room, right? So you can try to make yourself what you want people to think and how you want them to see you. But in reality, your personal brand, you only have so much control of it. You know, your actions, your words, all these things have impact, and it is what other people say when you're not in the room. So, pardon me, there is a difference between your company brand and your personal brand. As Skylar said, you're going to not only get a link to this, we'll send you the slides and some other stuff afterwards. So you can go through this in detail. So I'm not going to read all this, but company brand is more often going to include like, logos and very formal, font messages, all kinds of different things. And a company brand tends to be a little more stable in the sense that it lasts for a longer period of time. Personal branding, sure, you could certainly have a personal logo or be known for a certain type thing. But it definitely, one of the key differences is it really evolves over time. Because if you think of the fact, a company rarely goes from selling apples to oranges, but as a person, you're growing and learning and changing all the time. So not only does it evolve and it's like an active, living, breathing thing, but you need to feed it and you need to take care of it. Okay, as an entrepreneur, which is what we're focused on, right? The strong personal brand is going to give you 3 core things. It's going to help you attract customers, raise money, and hire a team. So people like people. People like to be around people that they know about. I was at an incredibly cool Northern Virginia Technology Council event last week, and the keynote was from NVIDIA, and the guy was like Anthony Robbins. He was amazing. And he had like, I don't know, it was like the Beatles leaving the stage when he left. His personal brand was so strong that he had like groupies. We have clients that due to their personal brand have been able to get in front of investors really quickly, and people that know you have a super cool team with great people, much easier to hire them. And it's not always easy to hire great people into a startup because you're not always able to offer packages that are as competitive as corporate America. Okay, so we're talking today both about B2B and B2C. The vast majority, every single stat we have and everything we're talking about does apply to B2B. So just if we have an image or say a word consumer, absolutely applies to both. We were very careful when we went through that. So 74%, so 3/4 of people are more likely to trust someone who has an established personal brand. And I think that makes sense. I don't think that needs a whole huge amount of explanation. 47%, so this one was a little bit more interesting perhaps, that almost half of people are influenced by a personal brand when making a buying decision. So for example, you might like Elon Musk, you might hate Elon Musk, and you might choose to buy a Tesla based on that or not buy a Tesla based on that. Just little option. 63%, and again, this is all going back to revenue, results, impact. 63% want to buy from someone that has an established brand, not somebody they've never heard of, can't find when they Google them, etc. Okay, so there's 5 core qualities when you're talking about a personal brand, somebody that you might think of, because I'm thinking about authentic here. So I think most people on this call probably know Shaquille O'Neal, right? Who doesn't love Shaq? Shaq is well known for endorsing a lot of things. He's like in that little tiny car that he wraps up in. He's doing insurance. He's doing like smelly feet commercials. He's doing everything. But he's super famous that he only will do endorsements for brands that he actually uses and believes in. And that really shines through. And even the phrase, like, everybody loves Shaq, like it really, really is a good example of the authenticity. Consistency is key. We're going to get into a lot of details really soon, but you want to make sure consistency in how you speak, how you present yourself, your tone, the pacing of content you put out, all that stuff. You need to be producing things that people want. Who cares if you're just rambling all day about things that no one's interested in? Visible, you got to put yourself out there. Like, you have to be in the conversation. Even if you're an introvert, you have to figure this out. Obviously I'm not, so call me if you want some tips. And reliable, right? People have to depend on you. You can certainly make a mistake and recover from it, but you have to be reliable. You got to show up. Okay. So we're going to go today into 3 core steps that you need to do to optimize your personal brand. First, there's the brand audit. Then we're going to focus on a little bit of how to define and build it, and then managing. Poll question number 2.
Mhm.
Do you know what people see when they search your name? Either I have no idea, yes, I actively take care of this, or the reason I have the third one is because whenever we talk about this, people are like, oh my God, I wonder what they do when I do it. And everyone pops right in there. So we'll give you a minute. For all those of you that are searching right now, just pause that window for later. This is always that awkward silence delay part, but that's all right. We want to let enough people answer. All
Yeah,
good.
we're getting some good
I'm hoping
responses, and I will tell you, it's pretty mixed throughout all 3. Just a
Okay,
preview
all
about
right.
that. Yeah.
All right.
I'm hoping no one just searched and found something damaging. Did anyone
know,
drop
right?
off the call?
Calling the crisis
Come
management
back,
team right
we'll
now.
help you.
Oh, it is mixed. But although what's very interesting is a significant amount, if you combine no idea and I'm searching myself, you know, even if we throw some, you know, statistical windows in there, at least half of you are not actively managing your online brand. So we're going to give you some super easy ways to take care of that. Thanks, Skylar. Okay, so this little, I don't know, my face is covering it on my window. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Just bear with me. Let me get
It's there.
Okay, there we go. I'm on a new laptop, so bear with me. We do have that little stamp thing. At the end, there's a QR code that can bring you to a landing page. You only need your first name and your email. We're not trying to market to you, but there's a couple things that you can download to just pop on the wall and checklist as you make improvements here. So here, what comes up when people search your name? Is it bad? Like, this is a post where these people are like, oh my God, we finished the whole bottle. You know, not really what you want people to be seeing. In the middle, is it just kind of sort of there, right? Like, that's boring and pathetic. Or on the right, are there literally no results at all when people look for you? And I will say, if you have a name like, I don't know, I don't mean to call anyone out. Let's just say it, Jane Doe. No, now I'm talking about dead people. Anyway, Jane Doe, let's just say, you could just say like Jane Doe and your company name. If there's 75,000 people, because you have a relatively common name, that went to a weird place fast. I'm just going to go to the next slide. Okay, so here is a quick, since Victoria is not on the call, this is perfect, so I can talk about her. So here are some that I pulled up from Victoria. So on the left is the post that she did recently and you'll see, and we'll talk about this later, Buzzy Rocket posted, and then you can see on the top, Victoria shared it and put some comments on the post as well as a link. So this is a nice, robust, it follows lots of best practices, a good post. In the middle, and we'll talk about this later, you know, she's got a headshot. She's got all of the different pieces. This isn't expanded because it's just a tiny little bit, but you know, you can see her skills listed down here, etc. And then over on the right, which will speak to this also in a little more detail, a little hard to see because it's smaller, but when you do a Google search, you can see there's stuff from, I'm squinting at the screen here. There's stuff from LinkedIn, from the Buzzy Rocket website, from Twitter, from Crunchbase, like all kinds of different platforms where they've been able to find Victoria and pull information on her. So that's a good example. Okay. This is a picture of a girl who's mortified because they have just found something out about someone that they did not want to. I don't have all the stats in front of me right now, but it's 80-something% of customers or prospects will go look for you. And the last thing you want to do is lose a big deal because you've got some like crazy Mardi Gras picture out there or something like that. So Meg, do you want to briefly speak to how you want to go through a social scrub?
Yeah, this is the foundation, right? So your personal social media accounts can stay your personal social media accounts. If you love partying at Mardi Gras, do it up. just make those profiles private so that that content isn't showing up in your searches. They're in the social media universe, you're not always in control of the posts about you, right? There's the things that you publish yourself. Then there's the other things that people publish about you and tag you in. There's ways on each platform you can find posts I'm tagged in. If you, it's a quick Google, how do I find posts I'm tagged in on Facebook? Go through and clean up anything untoward, anything that you really wouldn't want out there that you can't lock down with your own privacy settings. And then we're going to talk about utilizing inactive social media accounts to take up some real estate on the search engine result pages, right? That said, if there's any really old ones that are so off-brand and woefully maintained, you don't have to keep them to do that. Delete them. You know, your old MySpace page can be archived, and anything, if you tried to do a blog on cooking years ago and you gave it up, you know, you can go ahead and delete those accounts. This is a great way to just start from a clean slate. So when you get into the management phase, you have your hands on everything that's out there.
Yeah. Thanks, Meg.
Yeah,
why
of
don't you
course.
just go ahead? I know we didn't practice the back and forth, but why don't you just go ahead for a few here?
I know, we're just gonna go for
We're gonna
it.
wing
So, you know, I've worked with a ton of entrepreneurs, and the first thing I want to say to you is your personal brand does not have to be personal. You do not have to share pictures of your kids. You do not have to tell the world what you had for breakfast or that you're training for a marathon if it's not something that you want out there. For an entrepreneur, your personal brand is really about what you're doing and your expertise. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So it all starts with, what are you an expert on? And it's more than just the company you're building. You've had an entire career here. There have been myriad opportunities for you to amass expertise. That's going to create opportunities for you to build a brand around those pieces of expertise and help other people out. So when you start this little exercise, and let me take a second and say, branding exercises can take weeks, months. There are branding agencies out there that this is all that they do. What Debbie and I have done is really distill those down to really tangible, actionable activities for entrepreneurs that don't have a lot of time, right? You're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You want to get in there and have an impact on your business. These are the things that are going to do it. So start with a question. What do I feel really comfortable giving advice on, and that I could be part of conversations about in the digital realm? Then look to see who are the other people that are talking about those topics, and identify for yourself. And this is a little exercise. You're going to write this down. How can you differentiate yourself from the people that are out there? Maybe you have more experience. Maybe you have different experience. Maybe you have a different point of view and different outcomes based on the things that you've done. So having those identified and written down is going to help you get into a headspace for building all of the rest.
Yeah, and we always say, like, the like down and dirty of it is like, what do you do? Who do you do it for? Why do you do it better than anyone else? Right. And again, you can spend forever doing these things, but you can just, you can just make it that simple to start, because, you need to have progress. You need to get out there and do it. So awesome. Okay. And voice and tone, I think, where there's, I'm actually, as I'm speaking right now, probably an example of one extreme, and someone else might be another. But you want to talk through voice and tone and how that impacts perception and personal brand?
Absolutely. So there's, again, tons of exercises that you can do for this. It all boils down to have a sit and think, what are the adjectives I would use to describe my speaking, my writing, and my communication style? Part of my personal brand is enthusiasm. I'm typically very, very enthusiastic in my response to ideas and projects that I'm working on. So starting with an adjective like enthusiastic, that can help inform some of these other questions. Am I someone that uses emojis? Yeah. When there's something that can correlate with enthusiasm, I put them in there. I'm someone that uses triple exclamation points often. It might annoy some of you, but that's genuine, authentic enthusiasm that you see coming there through there. Grammar nerds be damned. So really starting with what is my authentic self and style, because you want to show up the same way online that you do in person. And that's a great place to start. You can make some decisions. Are you someone that incorporates humor? That is not something you can fake or force, right? So if you're not naturally someone that incorporates humor into communications, don't bring it in here. Something, that I think can be really fun is development of personal hashtags or taglines, things that you say a lot that can continue to show up in your online presence. But some of you right now may be having a very visceral reaction to the use of hashtags. They look dorky or nerdy or I hate them. Then don't use them, right? So you just sit and decide, what am I comfortable with, and articulate it, write it down. This is the foundation for everything you're going to do. The last, certainly not least, what inspires you? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you building what you're building? Why do you get up and get out of bed every day? That is a thread that is so core to who you are that having that articulated will help you pull that thread through in other pieces of communication.
Yeah. And I think, Meg, if I combine like the last one and this one, it's really common that people get imposter syndrome, right? They're like, oh my God, why would anyone want to listen to me? Like, I'm not, like, I'm expert, but there's so many other people smarter than me. You know what? I could feel that way, but you know what? I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm really, really good at what I do. And why wouldn't I share that? People aren't going to be like, handcuffed to have to listen to me. If people find value in what I have to say, awesome. And that's my audience. And those that don't, or if I'm not for them, like, that's okay. This is not a popularity contest. This is finding the people to whom you speak, which I think unintentionally leads us into audience.
Oh,
Look at that.
excellent
Whew.
segue. All
Awesome.
right. So, and again, we're distilling these bigger, like ethereal thinking projects down to ask yourself a couple of questions, write down the answers, and use that as your playbook moving forward.
Yeah. And Meg, go ahead and define psychographic, because we use that all the time, but everyone else might not.
Totally. Target audiences is a big part of this. So demographics are age, geography, gender identity, job title, those pieces. Psychographic is more about the lifestyle of the people on the receiving end of your message. Who are they? What do they think about on a given day? What challenges do they have that you can help with? And a lot of this, is going to be instinctive. You're going to know what the challenges your potential investors are facing and how you can address them. Your prospective employees are job searching. We've all been there, right? And we know all the challenges that are present in those times. So really, as you sit, think about what are those motivating factors in their lives. Would they, are they eating and breathing and sleeping their job? Or are they, doing it 9 to 5 and hitting the ski slopes after? And having those written, then, those aren't necessarily mutually exclusive audiences. You don't have to, nor should you be telling a different version of things to your prospective investors, your prospective employees, your prospective customers. What are the common threads between those defined audiences that you can use to kind of speak broadly? And then,
everyone loves a good story, right? And it's
yes.
Your origin story can be so fun and exciting. We've worked, at Buzzy Rocket, we've worked with over 100 startups, and I could go on over a drink or a coffee about some of the crazy origin stories, right? And Meg, I love the one that you talk about with Zappos all the time. Can you share that one?
Yeah, so Tony Hsieh was an entrepreneur that I did some work with during his time at Zappos and around his book Delivering Happiness. And if you haven't read that book, read that book. It is a great book. He did a great job on that. And one of the nuggets in that book was his first business was a worm farm. He lived in a town where there were a lot of people fishing. He went out, harvested worms, figured out a way to build a worm enclosure, how to feed them, started growing and breeding worms and selling them. And that little nugget that was included in the book came out in so many of the press interviews that he did around that book, and so many of the conversations he was having with people. they did like a big van that you could go in and hang out with Tony. So a lot of people got to have that personal time. So, you know, it's kind of like when you think of like massive influencers and celebrities, the question they get is, how did you get discovered? How did you get your start? This is that version for entrepreneurs. Where'd you get the bug? What was your first job? How did this voyage all begin?
Yeah,
And
something that's super compelling in the startup world around this too is how many startups have their inception and their passion to start it was around a challenge that they themselves or someone close to them experienced or they witnessed. So like we have this amazing client, Gander, and they were like, oh my gosh, it is like herding cats trying to get time cards in from people. It drives us crazy. We have to like drive people, text them. I mean, it's like a massive pain. It like we're losing money and et cetera, et cetera. They were like, let's just make an app to fix this. And they did. And then other people were like, wait a minute, you fix that problem? We want to fix, you know, we want that. And that's their origin story. And if you think about the credibility that somebody gets by being like, hey, I had this problem, or I was in some way, even tangentially involved in this problem, and it inspired me to start my business or work at this business, that's very real. Part of the reason we founded our company is, you know, I used to be a chief customer officer at a publicly traded company, and the working with agencies and the gaps between the client and the business, that's a whole nother, I'll stop because that's a whole nother masterclass there. Anyway, so again, and then wrapping that, you know, you have to figure out how that helps both in your value and beliefs, and how you know, how to appropriately message that to your audience.
so let me say this too. Sorry, just for that slide, like the example, Debbie, you just gave, part of the lore of the people that founded that app may be their problem solvers. That becomes an adjective that becomes part of their personal brand. They've demonstrated with what they've started, you know, then that becomes a foundation for content down the line. If you are a problem solver, you will celebrate innovations that are solving problems naturally, and that harkens back to that, right? The thing with the story, so that's kind of the last part of like some of the meatier ethereal thinking that you're going to do before you start managing. When you think of your story, you know, all stories have a setting, they have characters, they have rising action, falling action, plot, themes. So do a little work and write your origin story down. But then you're going to step back from it and refine it to really hone in on what were the lessons I learned and the values that I've formed because of those lessons. And you can use that to create a robust bio that is more than a list of your degrees, your accreditations, and the companies you've founded. It really talks more about who you are and becomes a foundational tool as you seek to bring it to life.
Yep. And we have both in the follow-up email, and there's a QR code at the end, we have Calendly links. It's free, obviously, but feel free to call us and be like, will you look over my bio? Or I have a question about my story. We love this stuff. We're like massive marketing nerds, personal branding nerds. Okay, so now we're getting a little more tactical as we wrap this part. Okay, so at the bottom here, these are not the actual photos off of the people on LinkedIn, because I didn't want to call them out to that level, but I'm telling you, they are taken from that. Do not wear sunglasses and smoke a cigar in your picture unless you're maybe the CEO of a cigar company. A friend of mine who might be on this call has a profile picture of themselves water skiing, and they are in enterprise software sales. So not the best choice. Don't wear baseball hats unless you have a company that has something to do with childcare or products or services around that. Do not have your family in your LinkedIn photo, right? And again, we are going to give you an entire sheet of like do's, don'ts, resolution sizes, all that kind of stuff. That seemed kind of boring to go over on here. But do not also have a picture of yourself 20 years ago. So then they meet you and they're like, who are you, old lady? Yeah, and smile, all that good stuff. And on your bio, all that hard work you just did, show your personality in your bio. Even if you're writing it in the third person, don't be like, well, you know, Debbie was born in 1969. Yep, I'm
Is that
54.
the year?
Yep, I was like, I just threw that one out there. Okay. This was going to be Victoria, so let me be my Victoria hat on. Really, website optimization is your first step in your digital footprint. Everyone, I mean, we're going to talk to death about LinkedIn. However, you really want to have, at a minimum, you certainly might not have a personal website. If you do, rock on, that's awesome. But if you don't, at a minimum, you want to have your name, a little, at a minimum, like a little bit of a bio, ideally an image, something on your website. We're not going to go into huge detail, but between, SEO, and you want to basically have more places to have visibility so that people can find you, right? So there's lots of that. So on ours, for some reason, this zoomed into ungodly proportions when I screenshotted it. But, there's information about us. You can hover and go into our bios. You can look at our team. You can do other stuff. Now, you don't need to talk about yourself on like every page of the website, because it's not like, more, you can shove all of it in one bucket, but it's important. So I cannot tell you, I would say over 50% of the clients with whom we work had a website and did not even have the founder's name on the website. That's a big miss. Okay, social media. I got sucked into this picture because like, what a fabulous pink coat. All demographics, everybody is on social now, right? And you can have 1,001 different channels and platforms, but in reality, the vast majority of what is going to have impact to your business is LinkedIn. Meg is a deeper LinkedIn expert than I can even share. So I'm going to turn it over to Meg to speak specifically. Let's do one more poll question. Last cute puppy. How often do you use LinkedIn? Almost never. Monthly, weekly, daily. I'm half listening and I'm on LinkedIn right now. LinkedIn stats are bonkers. I threw a bunch of stats at the bottom of the slides that Meg is about to do. So I don't know if she'll speak to them or not, but first of all, LinkedIn has right now over 1 billion people, and all of these, it's amazing. All right, so let's see. The survey says we need to get those buzzers daily. Excellent job. Excellent job. You are with the, I think it's 16.2% of people who are on daily. So our audience is crushing that. So that's awesome. And I totally get if you're half listening right now, you can listen to the recording later. I won't take offense. Okay, next. Okay, great. So there is a LinkedIn optimization like checklist with tips and tricks and stuff in it that you can also download, or we'll shoot it to you over email, whatever. I'll let Meg get to this, but I have 4 stories in the past, well, in 2024 so far, of people who were verbally told they were getting a job offer and they did not get it. And they were specifically told that one of them was told their experience on their resume didn't align with their LinkedIn profile. One of them ended up feeling like it was potentially ageism, but whatever they all are, do not be fooled. If you are looking for a job, this has to be spot on, super clean. Okay, go ahead, Meg.
We're going to focus on LinkedIn today. I see a question in the chat asking about Instagram. I could go on and on about Instagram separately. Let me say, amazing platform, really hard to maintain unless you have a lot of personality in there, or you're very comfortable being in front of the camera and producing a lot of video oriented content. But AJ, anyone else, if you have specific questions about Instagram, like Debbie said, shoot us a note and we're happy.
Yeah, we do a lot of work across all the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, et cetera. And it also very much can depend on your target audience. Really you want to be where your audience is. So if you are tech, or if you're pharmaceutical, or that, you might have different places. But for right now, this is focused on LinkedIn, but we can certainly do the exact same thing for you for other platforms.
Think about how much your LinkedIn usage has increased since 2000, and there's a reason for that. LinkedIn has put a lot of work into redeveloping this platform to turn it more into a social network than just for job seekers. And the pandemic and how it influenced the way individuals are using social platforms really opened the door for LinkedIn to become the robust network that we're all loving and thriving on every day. So, again, I'm trying to cherry pick some tactics here to help you really feel empowered to take action, because LinkedIn can be a big, crazy, hairy beast. So can all of this personal branding. We're distilling it down to these are the small actions taken consistently that are going to lead to success. One, Debbie said in the beginning, personal branding, it's all about consistency. So once you've decided on that beautiful headshot that doesn't have to be professionally taken, you can take it yourself. Make sure you're using that across all of your digital platform moments and your profiles, your websites. On LinkedIn, you get to create your own headline. What an opportunity. Make sure you're using that to talk about your status as a founder. And remember, in that personal brand exercise, the defined areas of expertise, they're going to go here. They're right up front and center. So people know exactly what you're going to be talking about and publishing content on. If you do have a personal website, link to it from your LinkedIn profile, not your company website. There is opportunities to do frequent drives back to the company pages. We'll talk about engaging with your company content further down. But if your personal website is robust, this is a good opportunity to get some backlinks to it for a little SEO plug. That story that we spent so much time crafting and refining and finding the themes for has a home on LinkedIn, your about section. And it's really important to make that compelling. People are reading that section. So great place to pull through, your origin story, the mythos of how you came to be. LinkedIn also has a very robust skills section on the profile, and take those identified areas of expertise, the same terms, and put them there. So this is the consistency. The free LinkedIn optimization checklist that is stickered on the top of this slide has a kind of a laundry list of the different sections of LinkedIn profiles and what you should do with them. But focusing on the cherry-picked ones, these are the primary and most important ones.
Yeah, and some of them might seem obvious, but it's super shocking when you go to people's websites, to their LinkedIn, and there's like some like stretched out, totally discombobulated image, or they don't even have certain things listed. But we should have, I should have said early on, like, you don't have to like LinkedIn. Like there's a little bit of, I don't want to say drama, but some people are like, oh, LinkedIn has just become this giant like advertising thing. Oh, LinkedIn, like you can't even meet anyone anymore. Or, oh, I just get spammed all day with requests. And whether you agree or don't agree with those, it works. The stats show it works. Leads convert significantly higher from there. That's how you do meet people. So we're going to go through more of those, but it is fine if you don't really like LinkedIn. You're going to have to choose, is that where my audience is? And if they're on Instagram, I think you said AJ or someone had asked that question. Great. Go bust it on Instagram. All right. Let me pop to the next slide.
Excellent. And I like to answer questions as they come in. I'm sorry if that's disruptive, Natalia. So what we're saying is when you're building your personal brand, one of the options you have is to also claim your URL and build your own website. That will transcend your time with your current startup, unless it's forever, right? But I know a lot of serial entrepreneurs, right? So having a place that is about you allows you to eat up that space when people are searching. So mine is megschaefer.com. Nothing too inventive about that, right? And I, candidly, it's just a landing page. It's not like an e-commerce site. I'm working on my blog behind the scenes. We'll talk about that in extra credit, but it's just, a place. So when people are searching your name, Google loves to feed them unique landing pages. That's another thing that you can do to fill up those search engine results. So LinkedIn management, it is So easy to spend many, many hours on LinkedIn. I personally love LinkedIn, so I love being on there. But here's what I talk about with the entrepreneurs I work with. You really only need to be posting once or twice a week. Isn't that, take it, drop your shoulders, take a deep breath. Isn't that so manageable? You're going to go back to your origin story and your areas of expertise to find things to talk about. So for example, Tony Hsieh, early entrepreneur, started as a child. He could have gone out and found stories of other child entrepreneurs and share those articles, talk about the lessons he learned as a child entrepreneur that he still was using as he founded Zappos, right? So it gives you a place to keep going back to. If part of your expertise, mine is empathetic leadership. I've managed a lot of people in my career. You know, there's a proliferation of content published about the effects of poor management and, you know, calls for more empathetic leadership as millennials come into the C-suite more and more often. That gives me something to pull from frequently where I can come in and talk about this article or this study or this research that I found. So this is the method to the madness. You do the work to identify those areas of expertise, and then naturally you're consuming information about them. That becomes fodder for content. When you're just getting started on LinkedIn, it's the, you know, what if you threw a party and no one came? Hey, I posted and I'm not really seeing any great engagement. These are some hacks for you to use. Number one, tag people in the post that you want to start conversation with. Some of my clients are tagging like 15, 20 people in a post, but that's their authentic network. They get responses from those individuals. So you can, at the end of a post, tag a couple of people you have connections with, or that you know have expertise on this topic that you'd like to develop relationships with. They get the notification, they come back and comment on your post. That tells LinkedIn this post is doing something good. It's going to show it to more people. Earlier in the discussion, we talked about hashtags. Hashtags are very present on LinkedIn, right? You can use as much as like 11 on a post statistically. My advice is to keep it to no more than 2 or 3, right? To use them consistently. They're aligned with your defined areas of expertise. And to put them in your posts, it makes them searchable to people looking for content on those topics. That said, if you hate hashtags, don't use them. No one's making you do anything. You are in control. Important, critically important to building this network is when people take the time to comment, respond to them. It more than just a like. Thank them for taking the time to comment, you know, respond to the meat of their comment. If they're just saying nice, there's not much you can do with that. But when they give you the opening, take it and engage in those conversations on the content you're publishing. And then,
And I know this seems simple, but again, at the stat at the bottom, images, 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 right? It's sort of like I used to joke that when you used to go to trade shows in the days, you could have left 75,000 messages and emails for like the CEO of some company that you were desperate to connect with, but then they want to come by the booth and get the free hat. It's like, it might be simple, but it works. There you go. Okay, let's go through a couple more of these.
yeah. And then, okay, so there's a lot of work that you can do for networking on LinkedIn and doing it well. So you're not one of the spam bots that just is showing up in inboxes to sell, right? So starting with follow other thought leaders in your areas of expertise. You on LinkedIn have the option to follow people or to request a connection to them. Start with a follow. You will get their content in your feed. When you log in, you start to see their posts. Look for opportunities to engage with them. If they are responsive to your comments, then connect request with them. So right now, you've primed the pump. You've already had an interaction. Now you're asking for a connection request. Look, you're building your network. Those hashtags, you don't have to be publishing them if you don't want to, but search them because other people are publishing with them, and it will help you find additional content that you can chime in and comment on. So let me tell you this, if you have a contrary opinion to something that is being published, that's awesome. Come through and talk about that, but do it respectfully. And a good example I can give of this, I worked with an entrepreneur, and I think I might talk about this on the next slide as well, like taking this just out of thought leaders, but porting this to investors or even members of the media, where you're following them and looking for opportunities to engage with their content. We had a beat reporter that I had pitched my face off like dozens of times, couldn't get through the door. And he published an article and he posted about it on LinkedIn. I flagged it to my client because I knew he had a contrary opinion to the article that was published. He posted a comment on that LinkedIn. They went back and forth. He ended up not just getting an interview with him, but becoming a frequently utilized quote giver in subsequent articles. And now when he has news, he's able to call this guy and say, hey, I have news. Will you write about it? So it really is about these one-to-one connections and creating those moments. Employ the same tactic behind potential investors. Do it for both their personal pages as well as their business pages. Consume their content. Look for opportunities to engage in their content. And the bonus points are when you get a meeting with them, you're going to know everything they're marketing. What a tool for you to go into that meeting and know what their priorities are and the kind of things that they're publishing. It's going to make you seem like you're really on top of it, which you are.
Yep.
You should have a separate company page from your individual profile, and it creates some good opportunities. Number one, it's an opportunity for you to engage with the content from your company. And that's critically important to success with LinkedIn's algorithm, that personal engagement.
Yeah, this is, I'm sorry to interrupt,
No,
Megan.
take it.
This is sort of how in the very beginning, right, I had the slide of like the corporate brand and the personal brand. And we might talk about this on the next slide. I can't remember, but you might not want to be like, oh my God, I won employee of the month. I'm the best thing ever. But if your company puts something out that's like, congratulations, Debbie is the best employee ever, I can then take that and share it and not feel like a total jerk that I'm just tooting my own horn. You can do this like, a thousand different ways, or even the one I showed of Victoria's earlier, where she had taken something from Buzzy Rocket and then commented and added some value to it, etc. And I'm just going to keep rolling here for a sec because I've realized we've got a lot of questions and we're running out of time because your big brain just knows too much. So on the employee side, do not feel like it has to be like, oh, they're all my children and I have to be fair. You don't have to go like everybody's comment that they put or engage with everybody or congratulate everybody. Just be authentic, right? Be polite, be nice, be authentic, but you don't want to be gratuitous either. This is where I just spoke about this actually. Little random tidbit, founder, out of the 1 billion, founder is the most listed job title on LinkedIn. Now, again, some of those are somebody who founded, I had an idea for something and never did anything. Some of them are founders of huge public companies. It's kind of all over there. Okay, extra credit. Do you want to speak, since you have a deep PR background? This is the last slide before we go to QA, I think, but there are the three kind of types of media. Do you want to speak to that, Meg?
Yeah, so what we're talking about, this is a great plan, easy to execute. When you start to really get the bug and you want to do more, the properties you own are the ones you have control over, the personal website, the content that you're producing. So if you really get the bug, be publishing a blog on your areas of expertise. You are able to give speaking engagements. It's hard. That's why people hire agencies to pitch them. But when you have it in and you have a speaking gig, talk about it. Publishing, articles, you can do that on LinkedIn as well. Earned media and PR, again, a whole nother masterclass. But when you have an opportunity to be leveraged in the media, that's such a great tool for personal branding. And then, with paid, that's working with influencers. There are tons of pay to play content opportunities. Any one of you could go blog on Inc. right now for a small fee, right? But if you have that scratch and you can put it to work, there's some great ways to do it in terms of your foundational expertise.
Yep. Okay, so here, don't worry, you don't have to screenshot this. We're sending these, but on the left is sort of like a little score sheet. You score yourself on how well you're doing on each of those items, and then determine if you're where you are on the range of needing improvements to excellent. And then there's sort of deeper layer tidbits and how to fix a bunch of them. And that's kind of overall personal brand. And then on the right, there's much more detail on LinkedIn. Again, everything from what resolution your images should be to bunches of other little things. So I'm going to show you a QR code in a second, and then we'll also email this all to you. All you need to give us, as I said, is your email and your first name. I'll leave this up. If you don't know how, which no shame in that whatsoever, scan me, just take your phone, open your camera, hold it up to the screen, and that'll bring you directly to that landing page. And then we'll email you. You can email to get all of them. I just have to really quickly show the last cute puppy for questions, and then I'll put the QR code back up there. Okay, great. So Skylar, I think you are the question master today. If you want to, first of all, thank you again. We love this stuff and are thrilled to be able to participate, add value, and we really mean it. Call us to talk through it. Happy to help. So go ahead.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie and Meg. So yeah, we have some questions. While we are on the LinkedIn topic, let me ask a few about those. Someone says, on LinkedIn, is it worth the price to pay for premium, and what are the advantages?
LinkedIn has a problem with premium that they need to fix to give it more value. If you're selling through LinkedIn, it may be because you can in-mail up the wazoo. Otherwise, I think you can hold. Or you're like super job hunting, but personally, I don't think it's worth the squeeze for job hunters.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in general, high level marketing, budget wise at startups, even though it's not a huge amount, you can probably spend that money somewhere else. Again, there's exceptions, but go ahead.
Okay, wonderful. What title should you use instead of founder?
Founder's good.
We should not have meant to imply founder is a bad title. It's a great, if you're a founder, totally great to have founder on there. It's just interesting. I don't think, I personally didn't expect that to be the #1 title. So I am, for example, though, founder and chief customer officer. You can be whatever, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with founder. It has a lot of upside.
Okay, great. Someone said, I understand LinkedIn is moving away from hashtags. Is that correct?
It's rumored. Let's see what happens. As of right now, they're still in the search bar. So with social media, this stuff changes every minute. For example, we have Twitter logos in there, and Elon finally got the domain switch like yesterday. So something that you're doing right now may not be something that you're doing in 6 months. Use them to your advantage while they're there.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Jomi.
What is the difference between a personal brand and brand?
As I was sitting in the chat and nerding out and disrupting the flow, I think that came through before our slide where we identified it. So I
Okay,
hope
perfect.
answered that. Yeah.
And we will send it also.
Okay, perfect. And then it looks like Conrad, you have a question if you want to unmute and ask.
I do have a question. I know you going depth about linking. Are there other websites you recommend?
In addition to LinkedIn, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think another great website is Medium. They have great credit authority with Google, and it's a great platform for publishing. It's also a little bit of an enclosed community where you can have a lot of interaction come on that platform. So I have some clients that publish there and then do like a shorter version of what they published on LinkedIn and say, I just had this great conversation on Medium that made me think about X, Y, and Z. So that ports over, depending on who you are and what you're building. Someone asked about Instagram. TikTok is another one where there's really so much expert driven content being published on that platform. So if you're someone that's really comfortable being in front of camera and can leverage that platform consistently, then those are also really great options, Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, and a lot of it does depend on your audience, because like it used to be that, Instagram, however many years ago, people would be like, oh, that's what those crazy kids are doing. I don't need to be there. And now, TikTok is almost, it coming up. And now there's, you don't have to just be selling a product to a millennial in order to be on a certain platform or not. But I totally agree on Medium and some of those others. And there are quite a few places where you can also blog, or even on the PR side, you would be shocked. You do not need to be some big expert with some huge name. A lot of these places, if you need sometimes like 3 to 5 basic writing samples, will keep you on call on their list when they need an expert in that particular domain. So if you're expert on monkeys and bananas, they'll put you on that list. And when they're writing an article and need a quote from an expert, they might reach out. So there's lots of other things that you can do.
Someone else asked about Reddit. That's another great one.
Yep.
There's so much conversation. There's forums for every area of expertise. Again, it's how much time you want to invest. And someone in the comments is saying, I don't have time. I'm bootstrapping. I'm doing all of these things. You know, we're super cognizant of that. And that's why we focused on LinkedIn. It's a place where if you're publishing once a week and you're logging in for 15 minutes every other day to make sure you're responsive to the community, you're doing it well, right? So it's not something where you're trying to build, you're not spending hours a day to execute.
Yeah, it's basically, LinkedIn is like the low hanging fruit, right? So there's lots of other things you should do, but that was an amazing entrance, whoever just slid in. Skylar, do we have additional questions, or are we wrapping?
Yes, we had one more. We can ask this last one. Benito, I think you wanted to unmute and ask yourself.
Sure.
Yes, great insights. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
I run a very small startup company that is growing really fast.
Awesome.
Any recommendation on how to teach? This is a 5-people group. Any way that I can motivate all of them to connect their personal brands to the company brand and create like a common denominator in the group?
So in their bio, they should list themselves as employees of your company. And when they input the company name, it will link them to your company page. And then when you, oh yeah, thumbs up to myself. When you publish on that company page, you have the opportunity to notify them that a new post has been sent. So you just click a button. All 5 of them will get something that says, hey, the company's posted, you should do something with that. So it makes it easy for the employees to take action. When you ask them to take action, comment and share are the most valuable, right? So you want them to comment on the content you've published, but then also go share it with their network and say, look what my company's doing.
Yeah, and we've had clients, big and small, even do little contests. For example, in Q1, who has the most engagement with our brand? And, you know, there's lots of little things, but shoot me a note. I'm happy, you know, we can certainly talk about it in more detail, because, you know, your most important customers are your employees. You know, they should be above everything else. You know, I don't always believe the customers come first. You know, they do on one hand, but your employees are really your most important customer. And maybe also trying to understand, is there a reason why they aren't? Are they not educated? Are they nervous how to do it? Or is there some underlying, you know, reason? But yeah, thanks for the question. Good question.
Perfect. Okay, well, I know we're about out of time, but Debbie and Meg, thank you so much. What a wonderful, insightful masterclass. And like I mentioned at the beginning, we'll be sending this link out to everyone so you can rewatch it. But we are glad that everyone made it today, and hope to see everyone again soon at another CONNECTpreneur event. So
Thanks again,
with
everybody.
that, we'll end it here.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.